Hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal with a laptop that's trying to fall. Welcome, and it's delightful to see you all again. It's Friday evening here in southern British Columbia, and it's great to see you all. I can see Jeannie's here, and Jody, and Jamie, and Isabel. Happy birthday, Isabel. And it's genuinely great to see you. I'm not quite sure how much I can do today. I'm suffering from what they call an ocular migraine. I don't know if any of you know what that is, and if you do, you will understand why I am a little bit discombobulated, I guess that's the word, but let's just do as best I can, and we'll see. Hi, Autumn, good to see you as well. So if I look a little bit confused or whatever, you know what's going on. It's what can I say? Some of you are going, you're always confused, Sal, so what's the point? Today we're going to be talking about coping with life, and one of life's delights is that I get, every now and then, I get what they call an ocular migraine. And what does that look like? What happens is, it's like your eyesight has a prism in it. You know, it looks like you've got cut glass in your vision. And it sort of normally doesn't last too long, but the after effects of it last that long. So Jamie's saying it's been a crazy week this week. And Jamie, it's always a pleasure to see you here. So thank you for making the time to be with us. And for those of you who don't know, DearMamaSal is a group of people that get together. I just happen to be the front guy. We get together 3 times a week, lunchtime on a Friday. This was Pacific times. Where we talk about coping with feelings, and then again on Friday evening, like tonight at 7 o'clock Pacific, we get together, talk about life, coping with life in general, and then we get together again on a Sunday afternoon where we talk about coping with stress. And yeah, Jody describes the ocular migraine as it's like looking through a kaleidoscope. Yeah, it really is. That's a good way of describing it. So basically, DearMamaSal is this group of people, we get together and really we help each other cope. And we cope with all sorts of things. And that's, I think, the important thing. And then, hi, Beth, we were talking about you at lunchtime. It's great to see you. Beth, we were, just in case well, let me know if you want to know why we were discussing you, or whether it's just enough to know that we were. But it was interesting because I was giving your life as an example, and it really is an important one. Yeah, we were talking about that not all mothers know that they don't show love, that they're so busy concentrating on their own stuff, they forget to show love to those around. And I was saying, I think that you were a classic example of that, where you lived up in a household where your mom had some addiction problems, and therefore you got punished rather than loved. And it's a great example of how that happens. Yeah. So thank you for being here so that people can understand and ask you questions if they need to. But it really was a prime example of what happens. And so one of the things, I got my blankie here because I was literally curled up getting a quick, I thought maybe if I could get a quick nap in, it would be a lot better. And it is a lot better. Not gone, but a lot better. So today we're going to be talking about life and its ups and downs, because that's really important. And coping, I repeat this every time because it's important to remember. Coping means that we invest our own conscious effort to solve personal and interpersonal problems in order to try and master, minimize, or tolerate stress and conflict. And we've had some great examples of that going on. And one of the things I was encouraging everybody at lunchtime was to be prepared and not scared of all the political debate that's about to happen, and how many people are going to attack you for what you believe, and what to do about that. And so if you've got any concerns about that, we talked about that feeling of being attacked by people that supposedly love you. And, you know, just for what you believe. And that is really important. And what I begged the viewers to do at lunchtime was to use the coming days as a example of how well you can control yourself, regardless of what the other people are saying or doing. I would like to think that the Dear Mama Sal viewers will be able to talk to people with respect, regardless of who they supported. That you know, that it's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about who did America want to have lead them. And quite honestly, it looks to me like they're not really quite sure. You know, it's pretty close, isn't it? And, you know, don't get angry because they're going to recount. I think it's wonderful. It does, you know, as I was saying at lunchtime, that sort of thing doesn't happen in China or Russia. You know, you don't get the right to have a recount. You get the right to, you know, to be told who you apparently voted for. So, you know, to me, it's about be grateful, see democracy in action. And, you know, the one thing I was talking about was, you know, if anybody starts a political discussion that's getting a bit too heated for you, it's okay to not respond to everything. You know, and I'd like you to, yeah, Jamie says, I'm moving to Canada. We closed the border, Jamie. So, you know, this is the whole thing, is to be the difference and just say, hey, you know, it's like, guy, you know, I appreciate your input and I'm glad your guy won. If you know, if you can say that, I'm glad, I'm so happy for you that your guy won. You know, that would be a really good thing to say. Even if you wanted your guy to win, it's still okay to realize how lucky we are to live in a democracy where you can choose, you know, and be grateful for that. Be really grateful. And by the way, if you've got a subject about which you'd like us to talk, yeah, please drop me a line at dearmamasal@gmail.com and we will do what we can and we'll add it to the list. Isabel, it is wonderful to hear that you've had a good birthday, and I'm glad that we're also honored that you're here on your birthday. By the way, for those of you who know Kimmy, and she probably will join us later, but it's her birthday in a couple of days. It's hers on the 9th. So just make sure that we acknowledge that. What we talk about today is the difference between living rather than existing. Right? Living is doing things that you want to do, not that everybody else wants you to do. Living is about expressing what you believe, and it's okay if people don't agree with you. Autumn saying, I've been coping with it all by keeping busy with my kids during the day and practicing self-care in the evenings, only checking the election stuff every so often. That's a great way to control it. That's saying, I couldn't count myself as part of the world. I stepped back and made myself accountable. I do count just the same as everybody else, kind of like the election. Yes, you know, if ever you wondered whether your vote counts, this is the election to see that it has, right? Every single vote will need to be counted for this. There is no landslide on this one. This is like everybody needs to know that they will have to count every single vote to make sure they've got it right. And, you know, Jeannie's saying many happy returns to you, Isabel, wishing you good health and good friends. Absolutely. And, you know, I want you all, right, Autumn saying, I stood in line for 4 hours to vote. Exactly. And Jeannie's saying, we urged everybody to vote. Yes, it doesn't matter who you voted for. What matters is that you were heard. Beth mailed in her vote. And how did you feel, Beth, when you suddenly heard that maybe somebody didn't want your mail-in vote to count? Well, you know, I'm pretty sure you had some feelings around that. And this is the whole thing. This is about everybody's vote counts. Yes, and that's what Jodi's saying as well, right? Every vote counts. So whether you mailed it in, and I think so many people did. We had more people vote in the US this time than ever, I believe. Isn't that wonderful? That so many people felt so passionate about it that they did. And yet I'm certain some of you are pretty surprised that it's still as close as it is. And, you know, it was funny because I was thinking about, some of the states, like when did Arizona become, a pivot point, or Georgia, right? Hi, Ken. Now, if I knew what the BG was, that would help me. Why do I feel a little stupid right now? What is the BG? Wait. All right, team, let's see if we can guess. It's the big background. Okay. Well, Ken, it's amazing to me how many people have been watchers in the background. And I know that there's one particular viewer that we had that watched for months and months, crying her heart out for months, and then suddenly decided to come and join us. So we're always pleased. Ken, if you choose to, let us know roughly how old you are, what decade, are you 20s, 30s, 40s, or like me, are you an old fart in the 70s? And if you wouldn't mind, Ken, let us know, what part of the world. You're a 55-year-old girl called Ken. Okay, you have me confused. Hi, Kimmy. Good to see you. And Kimmy, we were just saying it's your birthday coming up, right? On the 9th. So it's just like... and who has hair ton? Good. Watching while she's at work, so we'll just wave. Good to see you. All right, so welcome. You're a 50-year-old man. Again, you did have me confused. But something, Ken, one of the greatest viewers that we have ever had. I smile because everybody laughs whenever I talk about him because he's so funny. We call him Aussie for obvious reasons, but he originally came in to the program to troll me, and he ended up staying and turned out to be somebody that literally, when he had a heart attack, he said to me, "Sal, I'm in the ambulance being rushed to hospital. They think I've had a heart attack." And I sat there, he was in Indonesia at the time, and I sat there, Ken, going, he's in the ambulance being rushed to hospital with a heart attack, and he texts me. A bit difficult for me to say, apparently. But, I was so amazed at that. And what I realized was that it was important to him that I know that he was okay. I was very touched, I don't mind telling you. All right, so Oscar Wilde said, "To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist." All right, and I mentioned that quote last week because I think if you weren't here last week, you do need to know the difference between living and existing. So it was said that when an individual merely exists, he or she just survives, lacking the beauty of the senses and controls in life. Existing simply means to survive without feeling. And without feeling the actual reality of the feelings and emotions that are in it. It's okay to feel, right? It's, do you stay stuck in that hamster wheel, or do you get out and deal with life? That's what I always say. So living is when you do things intensely in life. All right, so Jody said, "Sal is my second in case of emergency contact, and she's in a different country." Go figure. Is that true, Jody? Wow, I didn't know that. Hi, Sam, good to see you. Thank you, honey. I wonder what I would do. Maybe you would let your number 2 emergency contact know what to do in case of an emergency for you. I don't mind having the responsibility, but I would like to know what you would like done in case, Oh, the stress of it. Like I haven't got enough stress. So living is taking life as it comes, embracing it, and doing as much as you can to feel fulfilled. Doing as much as you can to feel fulfilled for you, not for all of those people, for you. Okay? Living is choosing happiness and choosing to live. Existing is you being here physically, but just doing what you have to do to get through the day. And I'm a great believer that when you're living your life on other people's terms, you're doing this job because other people wanted you to do it. You're going on this vacation because everybody else said you should. It's not about what you want. It's about what everybody else wants for you. And quite honestly, not a good idea. It's okay, Kimmy. So simply put, if you are constantly learning, challenging yourself, and doing what you want, then you're living. And if you're constantly complaining and giving excuses, the chances are you're doing what other people want you to. True? I've been there. I know the difference. So for all of you, I just wanted to give you a bit of a warning. What I'm about to tell you is sad. So take a deep breath and get control of your emotions here. For those of you who know Kerry, her most beloved dog, Dora, passed today. And I want to tell you that for those of you who know Kerry well, you know that every day just about she put up pictures of Dora, and for as long as I've known her, which is quite some time. And the hole in Kerry's heart will be huge. So for all of you who care about that, for all of you who've had a pet and lost a pet, then I am sure you will do what you can to support her. Because as you know, as I know as well, that there is a pain about that that is very difficult to describe to anybody who hasn't had a pet. And I found this quote and I thought it was so relevant. And it says, sometimes losing a pet is more painful than losing a human, because in the case of a pet, you were not pretending to love it. How true is that? And by the way, if you've ever had a pet, the unconditional love that you get from a pet, you cannot compare it. And so Jeannie's saying, so sorry to hear about sweet Dora, sincere sympathy. And Jodie's saying how blessed Dora was to have such a devoted earthly guardian as our Kerry. I know she felt blessed to have Dora. Yes, absolutely. And so, as I said, some of us know the pain, and we know that it never really goes away. You just learn to live with it, right? And for all of us who've lost a pet, hearing about somebody else losing a pet just brings that back to the fore. So take a deep breath, because we can do this. I just found one more quote that I thought I would give you, and that is, not the least hard thing to bear when they go from us, these quiet friends, is that they carry away with them so many years of our own lives. And some of us will actually, think about our lives in terms of the animals we had close to us at the time. I was in a discussion with somebody last week sometime, and I was saying, dear Beanbean, bless his heart, he only lived for 8 years, but, he was 5 foot from nose to tip of tail. And I have a queen-size bed. And what I never quite understood was he could have just laid next to me and had all the room in the world. Why did he always have to sleep across the width of the bed instead of the length of the bed? Could anybody explain that to me? Because I used to feel terrible. I ended up, as some of you will relate to this, I ended up sleeping in the most unusual ways, just so I didn't accidentally push him off the bed. And then there were other days when I intentionally pushed him off the bed because I needed to stretch my legs. And it was like, Bean, get off the bed if you can't lie properly. And he'd look at me like, what happened? What happened? I go, you can come back on, but just, don't lie across my feet. So living is doing what I can to achieve my dreams, right? Not somebody else's, my dreams. So let me ask you that. This week, what dreams do you have? What dreams will tell you that you're alive because you're chasing them? Petot says, I think about losing my dog and what I'll do. I can't imagine that pain. No, you can't. You're right. It's like so many things. You know, you can't, nobody can tell you what that pain is like. You have to feel it. But we can tell you that it is my belief that the reason we hurt so much is because we love so much. All right. And so don't ever regret how much you love your pet. And it's a really important thing to just know and to prepare yourself for that eventuality isn't a bad idea, quite honestly. Coping with our minds as we deal with this sort of thing is, you know, I talk about getting off the hamster wheel that is emotion. We all have emotion and it's good. It's, you know, what kills us is how long we stay tied up in it. And it's not wrong to stay tied up when you're grieving, right? It's part of the process. You have to be able to go through those feelings. But like everything else, if you spend all day and all night in them, this is not healthy. And so the quicker that you can get control of those feelings and say, okay, today I'm going to spend 2 hours grieving, right? And cry and allow myself to be, to be angry and feel the emotion and everything. But after that, I get on with my life for a little while and then, come back for another 2 hours. I find if you can control your mind, you will get through it much more quickly. And so to me, I can draw a direct line between how being totally honest with myself led to my happiness. And when I say totally honest with myself, it's like when I realized I was really sad and I could talk to people about it. And because everybody always saw me as the happy person. And every now and then I'd say, actually, I'm not. I spent quite a lot of time on the stage and I can look pretty good and sound pretty good, but it doesn't mean that I am pretty good. It means that I can perform. And I'm pretty certain some of you know what I'm talking about. Jody's saying, my dreams are for peace, both personally and for our divided political climate. Yes, good. I'm also taking steps to improve my health. And that is my dream. The healthier I am, the more I can give back. Yes. And for those of you who don't know, Jody is our admin and does a wonderful job, not only of looking after me, but also looking after the viewers as well. And I want to thank both you and Lauren for all the help you gave Nyasha this week. I know that she really appreciated it. And you know what you did and why you two were so special in doing that. Under the heading of be prepared, not scared, be prepared for all hell, and I'm sorry to use that word, to let loose in the coming days and weeks. Be prepared for lots of court cases and stuff, and give thanks that we can do that. I have decided anybody who wants to get heated with me politically, I'm just going to say to them, you know something, I've decided to let it go and let the courts decide what was lawful and what wasn't. It's not for me to decide. First of all, I'm in another country, but it's not for me to decide. I don't have all the facts. And that's what courts of law are for. And so it's really important that we let them do their job. I think, and this is just my opinion on this one, I think it's horrible when we start threatening people who are trying to count votes legally. I think it's frightening to hear that when we know that inside the counting rooms we have bipartisan people, and maybe people don't know that. Maybe people don't know that, every counting place they have both parties represented, and everything that looks like it might be weird, they have the right to challenge it. I've been one of those people in the Canadian system. And it's like, if people don't know that, then they think, oh, funny stuff's going on where they're counting. Well, I got news for you. I was an observer once, and I want to tell you, yes, there are bipartisan there in that's part of the legal process, Jeannie. As far as, if you can correct me on this. I will listen to you, but as you know, part of the legal process of voting is that there will be bipartisan people. You have the people counting and you have people watching the people counting, and those people watching have to be from both parties. And then why did some say that they were kept away? Good question, Jeannie. I don't have the answer. All right. Interesting. Sam is saying, I have voted and I have therefore also relinquished my control over my ballot. What will be, will be. That's really healthy. But you know, what I also know is it's okay. I'm quite happy that they recount if they need to. I'm quite happy that they take it to the courts if they need to. You see, the more of that they do, the more people will realize that they did the best they could to keep it on the up and up. And as Jody so rightly says, right, Jeannie, there's a lot of information floating around, pros and cons to every viewpoint. I would also like to say, Jody, there's an awful lot of disinformation going around. How many of you have heard, stuff and you're going, really? Like what is, if President Trump loses, is he going to leave the country? Some people are saying that, there are all sorts of stuff. Don't listen to it. We will know what he is or is not going to do when we know the results. And Jeannie's saying the pollsters were partisan and the media was biased. I want to tell you, as long as you know that, and as long as you're smart enough to listen to more than just one media channel, then that's reality. And, I also heard, and forgive me for this one, but I also heard that one of the possibilities for President Trump, should he not win, and I'm not saying that he won't, should he not win, is that he will start his own television station so he can be really biased. I don't know if anybody else heard that. And he's got a huge following, and why not? He has, he has the experience of television, and he's good at it. There's no doubt about that. And so therefore that makes perfect sense to me. Of course, there are others that are saying he will leave the country. So we'll believe it when we see it. I think that's the whole thing. By the way, I've been prepared, not scared. How many of you know that I stocked up for the pandemic on various things, and I now have my own supermarket? I remember Beth saying, that she shops at her own supermarket, which is at her house. And I keep going back to my house to pick up groceries and things. I'm very glad that I stocked up the way that I did, because it's really helping me. I go back to the house twice a week. For those of you who don't know, my house burned, and I'm living in a rented apartment. I'm not in the hotel anymore. Have you seen the upgrade? I'm now in a furnished executive suite. That's what they call it, and it's very pleasant. So. Jeannie's saying that she will never believe that President Trump will run away. All right, he's braver than that. Yeah, and it's like, but I think that goes hand in hand with the people that think that if he doesn't win, he'll end up in jail. You know what I mean, Jeannie? So that makes sense to them that he would leave the country rather than end up in jail. Not that we know that to be true, but that's how people's minds work. And who put that out there anyway? All right, we don't know. I got caught, by the way, this week. I got caught. What did I get caught on? Oh, the passing of, he did say it, you're right, Sandy. He said it in a speech, didn't he? Yeah, at a rally. That's right. Thank you for reminding me. He did say it. By the way, I got caught on something, the passing of Sean Connery. So sad. He was such a big part of my early life. And somebody sent me a thing about a letter he apparently wrote to Steve Jobs of Apple. And I, for once in my life, I'm normally so careful to double check everything before I post it. I actually shared it with some friends before I double checked it. And it turned out eventually, about 48 hours later, I got a notification from Facebook because I shared it on Facebook with somebody, that it wasn't true. And so, it was just like, I hate it when that happens. By the way, when I go home, I still haven't opened up my freezer. So we know I've got a lot of food in there if I should need it. But I keep every time I go home to go and pick up stuff and do things, I am so glad that I stocked up the way that I did, because it really is exciting to me. You know, the way to make sure that you're living, not existing, is if you know that regardless of what life is throwing at you, you still have the ability to laugh. You still have the ability to keep control. I, for example, yesterday morning, you know, I don't do mornings. I don't normally go to bed before about 2, and I don't go to sleep before 3, and therefore I don't wake up much before 10. And yesterday morning, occasionally I will hear the ding of somebody sending a text or something, but that doesn't really affect me that much. But yesterday morning, my phone went, and that woke me up. Oh no, I lie on that. I got a ringtone that means that somebody was trying to talk to me on that's important, and because I have different ringtones for important things, and you know, that woke me up because that was important. So I then managed to get my 2 brain cells working enough to return the call, and it turned out it was my insurance person, and I let him talk for a while before I said to him, "What time is it?" And he said, "It's 8:45." And I said, "Uh-huh. Do you have any instruction on my file that says do not contact before lunch?" And you could hear him take a breath and said, "I'm so sorry, Sal." I did wonder when when I sent the text whether I should have waited until after 10. I said, "Never mind after 10. Try after lunch. Schedule the text if you have to." Because I said, if you want an intelligent answer, which you're calling for right now, it's my mind isn't going to work. I said, "By the way, send me whatever it is that you want me to make a decision on. And when I wake up, I'll look at it and I'll answer it." And that's what I did. And with that, I went back to bed and went back to sleep for another hour. And that's called setting a boundary. Does he know not to do that to me again? I hope so. It's like, really, when I first met you, I told you, don't contact me before lunchtime. I know that you get up way before I do, but I go to bed really late. So, it's not that I'm lazy. It's like I don't go to bed until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So therefore, and I don't know about you, but I worked a lifetime for the right to get up and go to bed when I choose, not when somebody says I need to be. And I really value that. It's like I worked so hard for that right, people, and for so long. So I don't need to apologize for it. It just is my time clock. How about that we said this time and time again, and we will continue to, that embracing change is living, and trying to hold on to the past is existing. Embracing change is living. And we know that there's an awful lot of change coming, and it won't necessarily be good. Why? Because I think a lot of things are going to change because of the pandemic. Because how many of you are waiting for things to go back to normal after the pandemic? I'm not. I'm saying this is the new normal. I think I will be wearing a face mask for a long time. A shield. It's not a maybe to me. It's like, this is the new normal. Sandy's saying, my internal clock has been wired that way for so long, I'm not sure I can change it. I want to tell you, you can, Sandy. It took me a little while, but I assure you that you can. And by the way, my neighbor that has been so kind to me, she also doesn't get up until 10 or 11 in the morning. And it's just like, and she agrees with me, right? We're retired. We're allowed to do that. That's living for us. Not living by somebody else's clock, living by our own. Jeannie's saying, I live to see what more I should learn from this life. Absolutely, Jeannie. Our governor decided to have all of us wear a mask everywhere. It's mandatory now. Yes, and it's like, if that saves people's lives, including mine, I'm happy to do that. All right. I don't see wearing a mask as any infringement of my rights. I see it as that I care about you or somebody else. By the way, I choose not to use the elevator here because unless I am carrying stuff that is heavy that I think would be dangerous for me to carry upstairs, the rest of the time I walk up and down the stairs. It's better exercise, and it's only 4 floors. Yeah, and Sandy's saying the same thing, right? That's how she's wired. She's a night owl. Yeah, it's just like, I think it's wonderful when we can embrace that. And but isn't it funny how society thinks you're lazy? And I've had people say to me, "Wait, you're not awake yet?" And I say, "No. What time did you go to bed? Because I didn't get to bed until 3 this morning." Oh, and I go, uh-huh. So remember on what it is that you're trying to achieve. I keep reminding people of this. It's really important to take it one step at a time. I'm pretty sure that by the time I go to visit the house tomorrow, that my shed will have been dismantled and taken away. I'm hoping that is so. And by the way, I'm going to be meeting Dougie there tomorrow, and he's going to help me with some of the cleanup. And so I'm really excited about that because I love seeing Dougie, as you know. And he's such a great worker. I just have to tell him what to do. I just have to look at something. Go, Dougie, you see that there? I'd like it cleared, please. And you see that over there? And then he not only does it, but he always does more than you ask of him. And so I know we're going to achieve a lot tomorrow. And I still have a week before they come to inspect everything. But my new challenge is this. They've asked me to take away the shed because whatever reason, we won't worry about that because I'm doing it. But what I'm going to ask them is whether I'm allowed to put a greenhouse where the shed was. Because that would help me a great deal. And they're complaining about the plants that I have on my deck. And I'll go, well, if you allow me to have a greenhouse, then I wouldn't need to have them on my deck, would I? So I haven't thrown all my plants away. And by the way, for those of you who remember Tommy the tomato, I ate him. I did. Wednesday, when I went to go visit, he had ripened at last. And I munched him, and he was so tasty. And you're going, Sal, that took forever. I don't care. I waited the whole season to be able to actually eat that tomato. And it was so good. And part of me was going, no, you should take it back and then, eat it so people can see. And I went, nope, it's not going to last that long. He could get damaged. So I ate him. And I just so enjoyed the living of that moment. And who else gets that excited about growing one tomato in a whole season? I do. You see, I think that's living, don't you? Yeah, and so Autumn's saying, I am one of the younger ones in this group. I wake up to my 4-year-old in my face telling me to get up. Yes, and we feel so sorry for you, Autumn. There's nothing like a 4-year-old waking you up, is there? Mind you, anybody who's got a fur baby will tell you that, they don't understand the same time either. Yeah, and Sam saying, don't worry, Autumn, many of us can relate. Just you, actually, do you know something, Autumn? The youngest viewer that I knew of was my first administrator. I know this is going to blow your mind. When I first started, my first administrator was a 15-year-old. And she could not believe that I picked her as an administrator. Well, and I said, did you stop to ask me why? Because I'm not as stupid as you think. And she went, what? And I said, ask me why I asked you to be my administrator. And she said, why? And I said, because you're always here, because you care about people, because you're very efficient, and I need somebody I can trust. And you have proven yourself to be very trustworthy. She went, wow. But I'm only 15. I said, has nothing to do with it. How many of you agree with me? Age has nothing to do with it. It's a mentality. And she was absolutely stunned. Jeannie's saying that she loves watching her tomatoes grow as well. Yeah, actually. On Autumn saying she can get her own breakfast and play independently, but for some reason she thinks she needs to come and let me know that she's awake. Of course, she misses you. And Jeannie's saying, Misty, that's her dog. Misty is not on the new time schedule. She gets up right after me for me to take her out, and then she goes back to sleep on the sofa. I want to tell you something. Depending on their age, dogs can be moving floor ornaments. I used to say that Beanbean, he went from being a puppy to being a moving floor ornament. He didn't do anything in between. Just 1 minute he was insane, and the next minute he just was so chill. But then, of course, he died earlier than he should have done. So maybe that was all part of that process. How many of you agree that controlling your stress is living, and allowing other people to give you stress is existing? So did any of you control your stress this week, and how did you do it? I definitely have lots of things changing in my life. As some of you know, I went to go and see the 2-bedroom apartment this week, and I had sort of not put too much hope in it. I thought I would probably move there, and I sort of started to pack. But I decided I was not going to make that decision until I saw it. And I'm so glad that I didn't pack up completely. You know why? When I went there, the first thing that struck me was how dark it was. I wonder if I can... Anyway, it was so much darker than this place. And that is a really big thing for me with the Canadian winter hitting us, is I need light. And, that place was darker with the blinds open than this place is with the blinds closed. And that was sort of the first, And then, so stupid, they had this corner unit and they put a bedroom on the corner. Now, what's the one room you don't need a whole lot of light in? It's a bedroom. So they didn't put the living room in the corner where the living space would have all the light. No, they put a bedroom on the corner. Go figure. Insane. But their choice. And then the third thing, so that was the second, And then the third one was it had a beautiful kitchen. Really beautiful kitchen. Most people would die to have the kitchen in that place. But the ice machine and the filtered water had been disconnected. It's just like, okay, that was another reason I wanted it. So when I went home to my house, guess what was still there? My water filter. So I haven't got it up yet. I take things from the car in stages. So I fill up my car with stuff, and then every time I go out in the car, I bring more stuff back, unless I feel like a lot of exercise, in which case I go up and down. So tomorrow when I go to the house, when I come back, I will probably be bringing the water filter up and be using it. Jodie's saying, Taylor, that's her little fur baby, a little white fluff ball. There's a floor ornament with intermittent episodes of tornado-like activity. Yeah, it's like 2 speeds, stop and go. Isn't that teenager? Seriously, when you think about it. And Jodie's saying, that's so odd. You'd need light-blocking blinds and drapes to cut that much light in a bedroom. Yes, actually, this bedroom that I have has got light-blocking blinds, and I love it. I actually don't open them. I just leave, it's got blinds and then a light blocking curtain across it, and I just leave it closed. Why? Because there's enough light when I go, if I don't really need to go in there very much during the day, and there's enough light flooding through it to not need it. So I want to let you know that if you are living, then most of your days are happy. How many of you have discovered that now? When you are in control of your feelings, not letting somebody else control them, life is happier. And so what I want you to do is just make sure that you understand the coming weeks, if you can keep control of your mind with all that is about to go on with the change or not of the election, then you will know that you are an emotionally confident person. You're an emotionally intelligent person if you can control both. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything. You don't even have to agree with who won. But can you be thankful for the fact that you live in a democracy that allows this to happen? We had a comment at the lunchtime broadcast where somebody said, why do they keep changing the management every 4 years? And I said, would you rather live in Russia or China, where you don't get to say what you like or don't like? That's the reality. And so it is. I actually was part of a big organization where they changed the management every year. And do you know why they changed it every year? Because they wanted fresh eyes on everything every year. Isn't that interesting? And in other words, that they didn't want somebody to be in there and create an empire and do whatever. They wanted fresh eyes all the time. And they had a succession thing that worked like 5 years in advance. They already knew who the president would be of their organization in 5 years, right? Because they were training them up for 5 years for that 1 year. And then they had other jobs as they finished that very, very interesting hierarchy and how it worked. So even after you'd finished your presidency, they didn't let you just drift away. You had now other responsibilities because of the experience that you already had. And so I thought that was a really interesting thing. But how many of you, and I've got to ask this question, how many of you are horrified of how much money is spent on these elections that could be helped? It could be used to help people who are homeless, or maybe support healthcare or do whatever. I mean, I am looking forward to the day where they say, they will cap the amount of money that can be spent on an election campaign. That's my personal thing. I think it's gross. It's like wasting food. It is just like so gross, really, when we have so many people in need in the world that we could spend that much money on a campaign is just scary to me. That's my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right. But as long as I have the program, I can say what I feel, right? Yeah, and Sam's saying no large donors, none, and no loopholes that allow them to happen in the back door either. I think, I literally would love to see something happen. Will it happen in my lifetime? I don't think so. Will it ever happen? Probably not. But I can dream. That would be, that we use that money to keep people warm this winter would be a much better use in my view. So, said my bit there. All right, so let me see. I've got some quotes for you here, if I can find them. Hang on one second. I hate it when I've got quotes lined up and then I can't find them when I want them. I'm human, what can I say? Just bear with me. There we go. So my question is, if you had that much money, where would you spend? Yeah, Yeah, Jeannie's saying that millions were spent to try and defeat Susan Collins and men. And I was saying at lunchtime, Jeannie mentioned this at lunchtime as well. But, I was saying that I'm a strong supporter of Susan Collins. I like her as a human. I certainly think that, she's always been somebody I admired. As I said, regardless of my beliefs, I always thought John McCain was an incredible human being. And still do to this day. And so, it's just like, it's not just about their politics, it's who do I support as a human. And I do like that in the fact that I would rather support the human. I actually have voted for people that I like them as a human rather than just their party. Even if I didn't think they had a hope in goodness knows what of getting in, that I would do that. So, with all that is going on, I thought we would get some quotes that hopefully would make us realize how lucky we are. I'm going to read again, and I've done it before, the Paradoxical Commandments. The Paradoxical Commandments were written some time ago. They actually quoted a lot from Mother Teresa, but she didn't actually write them. Kent Keith wrote them. And I just love them. So I'm going to read them to you again and listen very carefully because I think they are so relevant to us in this present time. People are illogical, they're unreasonable and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you will win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. And the good that you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. The biggest men and women with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest men and women with the smallest minds. Think big anyway. People favor underdogs but follow only top dogs. Fight for a few underdogs anyway. And what you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. And people really need help, but may attack you if you do try and help them. Help people anyway. And give the world the best you have, and you'll get kicked in the teeth. Give the world the best you have anyway. I don't know about you, but to me, those words, when I first heard them, affected my soul. You see, it's not about what everybody else is doing. It's about what are you doing. It is an incredibly focused on who we are and what we choose to do. Hi, Benji. It's really, really important. And I want to tell you from my experience in life, and I want to go back. I've met an awful lot of unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered people. And I now work really hard to try and love them anyway. I'm not perfect. I wish I could tell you that I am, but I'm not. And I have been accused of selfish, ulterior motives. Obviously, being a YouTuber, people have done that. But I choose to do it anyway. And how many of you know this? That, I've had one time in my life where I was pretty successful. And I did win an awful lot of false friends. And I did manage to make some really good enemies too. But I did succeed anyway. And for all of you, you know that the good you do today, could just be clean forgotten tomorrow. The world is a very fickle place, isn't it? That doesn't mean you can't live. That doesn't mean that you can't be happy. It just means deal in reality. Some of you know that whole thing about, some people you meet for a reason, some people you meet them for a season, and others will be in your life for a lifetime. And that's okay. And isn't it strange that the people you thought would be there for a lifetime are not the ones that are there? It is a really weird thing. And I've always been a big picture thinker. I see things in big, but I'm also very picky. It's a curse that I have. I am a visionary on the one side, but I'm really picky on the other. And it's just like, I've been criticized for both. That's okay. It's who I am. And, it's funny seeing this. Benji's here. But one of the things I always loved about Benji is he always valued both. Whenever we do an ensemble, I've always loved the fact that he valued the fact that I would pick up on things that were not going right more than most people. Why? It's my background. I'm a management background, so I see things and I retain that knowledge. And so, to me, it's always been that some people that know me well, they appreciate both sides. It's not an either or, it's who I am as a human. And so I am somebody who notices things, and I take notes. And I have a pretty good memory for certain things as well. It's getting less and less each year. I want to tell you something just in terms of that. I wanted to show you something that Jody sent me. And I thought you guys might like to see it. Jody, I hope I can find it in a hurry. Just hold on 1 second. Did you send it to me from your personal or from, yeah, I think you did. There you go. All right. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but Jody sent me a picture of me 5 years ago and a picture of me today. Now then, which one do you think is living life? And so I thought that was a really interesting, and thank you, Jody, for taking the time to cut and paste that together for me. But, I saw it and I went, wow, isn't that interesting? I do look better today than I did 5 years ago. And by the way, if I go back to when I first started DearMamaSal, I'm amazed at the difference in my face and my smile and everything in that time. So sometimes, just this being who I am has made me happy. Being able to just, do what I do because I love what I do. And, I spent years building my reputation, and something happened in my life where somebody decided to malign me and accuse me of something that wasn't true. And it destroyed my reputation with an awful lot of people who didn't bother to check out the facts until much later. And, what I realized was that is life. That is life, right? It happens. But, the good news was the people that stuck by me and said, there's no way you ever did that. And I said, I know. And they said, we know that. We know that. I said, no, but, today I understand that they have to check it out, that I understand. But boy, did I ever get a public apology the way that they publicly discredited me? No. Interesting. That to me is character, right? And so understand that life isn't fair, right? Life is life. And everything in life is a test of how you're doing. Everything in life is checking out to see how are you coping. We all, if we get a little too big for our boots, have you noticed that life has a way of slamming us down? If we don't bother to do anything, we can get stuck in a rut. And life does very little to help us out of it, quite honestly. If that's where you want to be, that's where you'll stay. And so part of what makes the difference is that we can control our mentality. When we control our mentality, life changes. Mahatma Gandhi, who was so revered for his ability to change the country of India through peace, not through turmoil, not through civil war, but through peace. He said, when I despair, I remember that all through history, the way to truth and love has always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they have seemed invincible. But in the end, they always fail. Think of it, always. Right? And so I urge you to remember this, all right? Do everything you can to come from a place of love, regardless if people are coming from a place of fear and hate. Come from a place of love as much as you can. And, how many people have been, so confused about why I am dealing with the things that I'm dealing with the way that I am? Well, I get up every morning and I'm grateful to get up and wake up. I get up every morning and, now I'm grateful to be in a furnished apartment and not in a hotel. Do you understand? Every day I'm trying to make sure I am grateful for what I have. And it's much easier to clean this place. And I think, any of you camping people, because one of the things I noticed in the days when I had my trailer was that I'd go off for a weekend in my trailer. And when I came back, I used to think, why have I got such a big space? I've just spent, 4 days perfectly happy in 26 feet. And now I'm, in this big 3-bedroom apartment. And I think that's a big wake-up call. I've noticed that this place is beginning to get more and more cluttered. For every week that I live here, it's getting more cluttered. Why? I'm bringing more things in. Yeah. And it's quite funny because the cupboards are so stupid. I'm actually beginning to have a box as my pantry, right? And I enjoy it. I go, let me go to the pantry, and I walk into what is the den here, and I get to the box that's my pantry, and I start to laugh, and I go, not everybody has a pantry box, but I do. And Roy T. Bennett said, be the reason somebody smiles. Be the reason somebody feels loved and believes in the goodness of people. Be the reason. You are the reason. All right? If everybody wants to fight over this election, that is their right. Just don't be part of it. It takes 2 people to fight. The other thing is that, really, the other person has a right to their opinion. And just because it doesn't agree with ours doesn't make them wrong or stupid or whatever. It just means that they see it differently. Or, quite honestly, in a lot of cases, they have been indoctrinated differently, because we're all indoctrinated, right? Depending on what social media you watch, depending on what TV channels you watch, depending on what friends you have, we are all, indoctrinated by all those things. And so it's just like, none of us is right. And how many of you are going, I wonder how many of the things that I read and thought to be true didn't actually come from my friends at all. They came through some feed from some hacker, and we know that to be true as well. But, we don't have time to check all those things. That's why they work. And again, from Roy T. Bennett, life becomes easier and more beautiful when we can see the good in other people. I would challenge us all to see the good regardless of what the outcome is in this election. See the good, right? Be grateful for the democracy. Be grateful that it was such a close race. Be grateful for the fact that we will go to court case upon court case to have recounts done because they're double checking to make sure it was lawful. I think that's a good thing, don't you? And I'm pretty certain that as well as I do that half the country is going to be very upset if the other half wins. And isn't that sad? When really what that is democracy in action. And we will know that we have control of our minds if we can look at that and go, hey, I didn't agree with it, but let's move on. Time for change. I need to change, not them. I need to change. I need to get on board and do the best I can within this new environment. Desmond Tutu from South Africa said, do your little bit of good where you are. It's these little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. And I would like to remind you that all of you, whatever you take from the broadcast and pass on to other people, you understand you are doing magical work. If you have talked to anybody about getting off the hamster wheel of emotion and just dealing with facts, then you will have helped somebody immeasurably. And for that, I thank you. Because to me, the greatest gift that there is to pass on that sort of learning. And, I was really quite frustrated that I got caught up on that scam this week. And then I burst out laughing and thought, why did you think you were that special, that you would not get caught on one of those? Really? And then I realized I also was feeling embarrassed because I don't normally not check them. And guess what? It was just one of those moments where I didn't, and I got caught. It's okay. And Jeannie's saying a sense of humor helps everything. Yes. And by the way, I caught out a lie this week. When I bought the house, one of the things that they told me was I had a sense that the microwave was not vented outside, that the air was just being recirculated. It wasn't being vented out at all. And I queried it with the seller. And they said, no, that was done. Guess what? They had to remove my microwave to redo some wiring. There's no vent. I was correct. Now, is there any point in getting angry? No. Did they lie to me? Yes. Does it change anything? No. So here's the choice that I have. The choice that I have is, do I now want to tell them that when they reconstruct to put that hole in there and vent that microwave properly and spend that money? Of course, I don't want to spend any money. But hey, while the place is being torn apart and put back together again, does it make sense to spend the money and do it? The same way as, I found out that the microwave was put into the lighting system. So whenever you put the microwave in, the lights all dimmed. And I've said, no, it needs a separate line. I will probably have to pay for that, but that's it. And I've also told them, because my fans were linked to the on-off switch, that whenever you turn the light on, the fan came on. Well, hello. I said to them, I don't ever want that again. So please, when they redo that wiring, make sure it's separate, that I choose to put on a fan or not, because I'm going to be so sensitive to fans now, having had one seethe. Nelson Mandela said, a good head and a good heart are always formidable. But when you add to that a literate tongue or pen, then you have something very special. I would like you all to think about that, which is, how many of you come to Dear Mama Sal because you enjoy learning things? I asked I was saying that one of the things I learned this week was that Michigan has got this funny little peninsula that is part of it, and it's across the other side of a lake. And I'm going, how come I never saw that before? And so then I had, being me, I'm going, why? There has to be a good reason why. And so I spent quite some time researching the reason why Michigan's upper peninsula, they call it up, or Yoop, somebody's saying today, But, I wanted to know why. There had to be a good reason why they did that. And so I get, part of my living is learning. I love to learn things. Anna Sewell, who wrote Black Beauty, said, "It is good people who make good places. Good people make good places." And I would like you to be the good people this week, all right? Regardless of how testy everybody gets, excuse me a second, how testy everybody gets and how much argument there is or whatever, just don't be part of it. Just choose not to be part of it. And just with the facts, I am so glad to live in a democracy. I am so glad that they are recounting because it'll be more fair. And we will all know it's more fair. Whether we choose to accept it or not is an individual thing. But we will know as a country that it was fair. And Shakespeare, bless his heart, he said, "How far that little candle throws its beams, so shines a good deed in a weary world." I was thinking today, I don't know about you, but did you give any thought to those poor news anchors who have been regurgitating the same words for 3 days now? I don't know about you, but that electoral map has not changed from 253 to 213, for 3 days. And they have managed to fill morning, noon, and night with words. And, I keep thinking, how boring must that be? I'm pretty sure that they're all really tired. They've been on rotation through this for 3 days. And, you haven't seen any replays of anything, right? It's all live and in the moment. And I'm going, I bet you they are really looking forward to an outcome. And how tired must the candidates be? I'm hoping that they're taking these 3 days to actually get some sleep and some rest. Because you imagine, I said to somebody the other day, whatever you may think or not think about President Trump, did that man work his heart out in the last 2 weeks of that campaign? And, amazing what he did. And it was just like, he deserves to get some rest, without any doubt. And Jeannie's saying, yes, one person can change the world or change somebody's life or mind. But, we can only change somebody's life or mind if they are willing to listen. I think that is the important thing. And that is the lesson for us as well, Jeannie. The lesson for us is that we listen. We don't do that enough. Marcus Aurelius said, if it is not right, do not do it. And if it's not true, do not say it. And so one of the things that we need to be doubly careful of in the next few weeks is not to react to everything we read, see, or hear, all right? Because I really am beginning to wonder how much of what we see or read or hear is true. And it is so difficult to work that out in this day and age of social media. And as you so rightly said, we all watching challenge that are media biased. And so it makes life very difficult. But if we stay in the center, if we make sure that we're listening to news from different sources, and try and get some balance and not get angry because the other station doesn't say the same as your station. It is part of what being educated is. I'm a big fan of Steve Maraboli, and he said, I want to live my life in such a way that when I get out of bed in the morning, the devil says, oh, he's up. I don't know about you. That to me is funny, that the devil would be upset that I woke up. Yeah, because now I'm going to have influence. All right, Jeannie's going to bed. Great to see you here. It's a pleasure, Jeannie. Always great to see you, and thank you for giving me the heads up on the building thing today. George Orwell said, on the whole, human beings want to be good, but not too good, and not quite all the time. So here's my question of you. Do you believe that that's true of everybody? Do you believe that everybody wants to be good, or do you believe that there are evil people in the world? What do you think? And that they have no wish to be good. They actually get their jollies out of being not good. And so, like everything else in life, I do believe that it's all about, it isn't about absolutes, right? There are no absolutes. I am quite a good person, but not totally, I wish. I'm not a totally good person. I've done lots of things in my life that I regret. A few things in my life I hope nobody ever finds out about. It's like I'm a human. But, it's like I feel sad for the people that are born and seduced or whatever into being evil. Because I think that's what it is, right? It's like we know it's wrong, but we do it anyway. And it's like anything else. Once you've done it once, the second time is easier, whether it's good or bad. And Arthur Schopenhauer said, compassion for animals is intimately associated with goodness of character. And it may be confidently asserted that he who is cruel to animals cannot be a good man. If you've done any reading of evil people, it's amazing how many of them were cruel to animals in their youth. It's a very interesting thing. Who thought it was funny to shoot cats with a BB gun or, do horrible things. And you're going, I'm pretty certain they weren't taught to do that by their parents. It's just something that they thought they didn't see any wrong in that. And so I wonder sometimes how much is the responsibility of parents and how much just is plain wiring. I wonder what you guys think. And how about this? Good people see the good and bring out the best in other people. For those of you who know Nyasha, I really do have to thank all of you that have supported her in the last 6 months or so, because the changes in her life, because of all that you have done to support her, is just amazing to me. You have done such a good job, and I hope those of you who have spent any time trying to help her understand stuff and to hold her hand through medically learning things, I hope you all sleep well at night. I hope you all say to yourself, I have made a difference. Because there is no doubt in my mind that you have. And that the time that you might have spent helping has proven to be just invaluable to her life. And it's education that she could not get where she lives, but you gave it to her. Wow. Thank you. That's making a difference in the world, people. Really making a difference. And sometimes we never know the difference that we make, right? And you need to be aware of that. It always amazes me that, we never know who's listening. We never know who's going to listen to this on the rebroadcast. And so every time that we help somebody, we may never know. But isn't it wonderful to know that just by talking through stuff, we do help people? To me, that's really exciting. It was said that conquer the angry one by, I'll try it again. Conquer the angry one, not by getting angry. Conquer the wicked by goodness. Conquer the stingy by generosity, and the liar by speaking the truth. I think the thing that we all realize as we get more and more intelligent is nobody wants to change their point of view. But if you give somebody something to think about, they normally will. And so our job is not to convince people to change. Our job is to give them a balanced view if you can. And so I think that staying away from conflict, there's a difference between running away from it and staying away from it. All right, Jody's saying, I think it's up to the parents or guardians to consistently reinforce kindness and compassion, but each individual's inherent tendencies cannot be placed on the shoulders of those that raised him or her. Yeah. And so to me, the reason I would have to agree with you, Jody, is because I have so many experiences in my life of parents who raised 4 incredibly kind, gentle children. And then the 5th one, totally different personality. And you wonder, like, how is that possible? How is that possible? Or they have, as you say, 2 really kind children, and the 3rd one is just totally different. And, you look at it and you go, that's just life, isn't it? It's just not easy. Mahatma Gandhi said, to my mind, the life of a lamb is no less precious than that of a human being. And I don't know about you, but, if ever I stand on an ant or anything, I'm going, that was not kind. I hope it was sudden, immediately. But how many of you think like that? But if you see a spider, that's game over. It's just like the rules change if it's a spider. Why is that? Seriously, why is that? How about this one? J.K. Rowling of Harry Potter fame said, you are protected, in short, by your ability to love. And I would like to suggest that for most of us, the most difficult person to love is ourselves. We are so busy hiding who we really are. We are so busy trying to conform to what everybody else wants us to be. We're not living. We're living in the shadows of who we really are, praying that nobody will find out. I had somebody say to me in my real life this week, what a kind, considerate person I was. And I wrote back and said, let me introduce you to the other side of me. This one you probably won't see unless you betray me, lie to me, or do X, Y, and Z. But I want to tell you she is there, and she is not pretty. And the most magical thing was the person wrote back to me and said, oh, I got one of those as well. And I go, welcome to the human race. Yeah. And the old me in the, way back when, I would never have admitted to the fact that I have another side of me that comes out in spades. If you do any of those things that trigger me, I am not proud of what happens to me. I'm learning to control it a lot better, but, it's just like, it's not pretty, people. How about this? Mark Twain said, be good and you will be lonely. How about that one? How many of you have found that the more honest you are and the more truthful you are and the kinder you are, the lonelier you are? And is that a bad thing? 2 different questions. So to me, when we look at these things, we just see that life keeps we keep evolving at the speed that we can learn, is what I believe. And some people will go through the whole of their life and not learn anything. And some people go through their life and learn pretty negative things. And some will seek out positive things and the truth. And as we said earlier, regardless of the good that you do, you can be destroyed by somebody's judgment of you in a heartbeat. Try not to be that person. Mahatma Gandhi again said, always aim at complete harmony of thought and word and deed. Always aim at purifying your thoughts and everything will be well. I think that's what we do, right? We aim at purifying our thoughts. Now, it'll be a big challenge this week, people. At the very least, be prepared to see, keep asking yourself, if I were on the other side, how would I be seeing this? See, that's what gives you balance. If you can see the other perspective. Excuse me a second. When someone has been mean to you, why would you want to be good to them? You wouldn't want to. That's what makes it so hard. You do it anyway. Being good is hard, much harder than being bad. I was telling a story about Jodie at lunchtime today, where somebody had been really cruel to her this week. And then she realized their birthday was coming up and she was toying with whether or not she should send a card. And the truth was, if she did not send the card that she would normally have sent had they not been cruel to her, then their actions controlled her mind. And part of the discussion was, don't let other people change who you are. Don't let their cruelty bring out your cruelty. Does that make sense? It's just like, keep being who you are. Whether they judge you or not is not your business, it's theirs. So keep being the kind person that you are. And how about this one? Goodness is about what you do, not who you pray to. Now, that's a pretty touchy subject, isn't it? But how many of you know that religion was based on, so many different types of religion were based on, ours is the right one. And anybody that doesn't follow our faith is wrong. And I think inherently that is not the way myself. I think everybody has the right to believe what they want to believe and to do what they choose to do. I don't have to agree with it all, but I do believe in their right. And I don't believe that I will go to heaven or hell based on which of those versions I subscribe to. Touchy subject, almost as bad as politics. Jim Henson of the Muppets said, when I was young, my ambition was to be one of the people who made a difference in this world. My hope is to leave the world a little better for having been there. And how many of you know the Muppets definitely made a huge difference in the world? How many of you grew up with the Muppets? I remember when they first came out, and Miss Piggy, I mean, why do I always remember? In fact, funny enough, I had two dressage horses, and one of them was called Kermit, and my second one I called Miss Piggy. And, you know, my trainer almost didn't want to train me because I named this incredible thoroughbred Miss Piggy. And I said, you just have to understand, yeah. Kermit was Kermit. And yeah, well, what was I going to call the second one? Anything other than Miss Piggy. So, and again, they judged my intelligence or whatever based on, you know, what I call my horse. By the way, I just need to give you a news update. They're saying that Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, has coronavirus. I just want to tell you, I've just seen that on the news. Yes, Jim Henson was a visionary. And when you think how many, I mean, you think of all the famous people that have fought to get on the Muppets and interact with the Muppets, and how much fun they had doing it. And it must have been so difficult to keep a straight face. You know, when you're busy talking to this hand puppet and you can see the guy down here doing it, you know, it must be very difficult to keep your mental alacrity focused on the right thing, not looking down at the person who's making the funny noises. And by the way, which was your favorite Muppet? Gonzo. I loved Gonzo for some reason. I mean, other than Kermit and Miss Piggy, my next in line would have been the Great Gonzo. I was thinking about calling Kermit the Great Gonzo. And I didn't. But to say that the Muppets had influence in my life, absolutely. Did he make a difference in my life? Absolutely. Evil is committed without effort, naturally, fatally. Goodness is always the product of some art. Isn't that interesting? Justin Cronin said, real courage is doing the right thing when nobody's looking, doing the unpopular thing because it's what you believe, and the heck with everybody else. I did it once in my life where I stood up against the world on an issue, and I made a lot of enemies for doing it, except the person that I protected. And, you know, it is interesting to me because whenever they said to me, why did you put your whole reputation on the line for me? And I said, because it was the right thing to do. It wasn't about me, it was about you. I had the ability to protect you, and I needed to stand up and do that. There wasn't a maybe in my mind about that. I didn't contemplate, well, should I do this? It won't be good for, no. It was like, this is the right thing, and what they're doing is the wrong thing. You see, if you don't stand up for anything, you'll fall for anything. And so every now and then, you need to be able to say, as you did, Jody, you know, to your family, you know, this is the boundary. You know, you can call me all the names you like, but the boundary is no. And, you know, it is wonderful that you have learned and are practicing that. And Jody's saying, I love Miss Piggy. She has a better wardrobe than I do. I used to love it a bit. So, as you look at this week, I really challenge you to live this week. And don't try not to get sucked into all the bad negativity that will happen, regardless of who wins or doesn't win. And how many of you going, maybe we won't even know by this time next week? How many of you going, oh no, please don't tell me that? And because, you know, by the time they voted and finished the count and then the recount and then gone to, you know, it's possible we won't know this until December. And even then, yeah, people are not going to agree with it. We know that. Deb Coletti said the most basic and somehow forgettable thing is this. Love is not pain. Love is goodness. And real love is less shiny, solid, and simple. So work on love this week, regardless of what's being thrown at you. You do not have to fight back. You do not have to be right or wrong. You just need to ask yourself, how do I keep my peace within myself? I choose not to fight this week. I choose not to get angry with people this week. I choose to let go of certain things. How many of you saw me do that with this whole issue about the shed on my property, right? It was like, what it's going to give me. It wasn't about who is right. It's what is going to be less stressful for me. And I ended up actually making some money on it. Not a lot, but I made some money on it. And I'm going, I could take that money and buy a greenhouse that I will, that will be useful. Will Smith said, if you're not making somebody's life better, then you're wasting your time. Your life will become better by making other lives better. Your life will be better when you spend your time making other people's lives better. Jody's saying, fantastic reminders tonight, Sal. Keeping our personal integrity and peace of mind in a chaotic world. Yes. I'm amazed, though, Jody, when I talk to people, how many people, really, I just keep saying, I can't wait for it to get back to normal. And I just smile and say, oh, it's interesting. You think it will? Because I don't think it will. I think the normal is now. You see, I can be happy because I'm not waiting. This is normal. I think we will be a lot more cautious, and the world will be a lot more cautious. And by the way, we haven't seen the third or fourth wave yet. And think about it. Countries like Africa and India and China, and they're going to have big second, third, fourth waves. As I think any mass population is going to be, we're only at the beginning of this. And if you also think about it, how many flus are going around that are pretty deadly on their own? And now, we may never get rid of this one. We hopefully will find a vaccine to protect ourselves a little bit, but we may never get rid of it. And that's a reality. Roy T. Bennett said, I admire those who do good and expect nothing in return. I call those angels. What about you? And I was telling the viewers at lunchtime today, you remember the blankie that they gave me when I was cold, sitting on the fire engine watching my house burn, and my neighbor came out with a blankie? Well, they heard this week that I had considered buying the blankie from them because I was so attached to it in that first week. And you can't believe it. They actually handed it back to me this week and said, this is your blankie. You earned the right to keep it through your bravery and your attitude and your whole sense of being. I did not expect that. So isn't it strange that, again, another thing that I had said that I would like to keep it, but I felt the right thing to do was to return it. And it came back. Go figure. I didn't have to hold on to it. I just had to let it go. But then they heard. So I think part of what I'm trying to say is that part of the lesson here is to live means that we need to trust that things are going to be fine. Yeah, Jody's saying that's beautiful, but that you're able to keep that blanket, right? How kind of them. Yes. And it's the same people that have bought the shed. So maybe this whole thing is unfolding as it should. Remember, up until the fire, I had never met these people. I'd lived opposite them for 7 months, but I'd never met them. There was no reason to meet them for some reason. And yet the universe made sure that I met them through their kindness with the blankie. And now they bought the shed. It's like weird. I find great joy in that. To me, it's fascinating that it all just seems to come together when it's meant to. So if you have faith that it's all going to unfold as it should, it may not be the way you want it to, but the way that it should. And Jody's seeing it from their side. She's saying, imagine the joy that they experienced knowing they could do that for you. That's what they said. That really, I thought the fact that they said you earned it through your attitude and your courage. And I went, really? And, there were so many things that happened to me this week that I needed to change. I'm a pretty independent person, and I like that. But, there was no way I could move all the crud that I got out of the shed that needed to be disposed of. And I realized I needed help. And I got it, I hope. I hope when I go there tomorrow, the crud's gone and so is the shed. In which case I've got just the job of cleaning it up where everything was. And that's why I called on Doug, because he's such a workhorse. And, the other thing is this, I thought, well, I can clean up the leaves because I'll just get the blower out and clean up all the leaves. Well, guess what? Where do I plug it in? Because that my outdoor sockets don't work anymore. And then I went, I don't have electricity anymore. And I go, yes, I do. It just means I need to get an extension cord into the house. And then your mind automatically goes, but that means I've got to keep the door open and it's cold. And I'm going, there are great holes in your house anyway. It's cold in there anyway. And there's nothing in there other than what they've left, which isn't very much. So it's not going to make any difference. There is a panel that they did for your freezer and your fridge. So, just use that and run the cord out. And by the way, put 2 in series if you have to. But it is interesting, right? If you just see life as one long lesson, and you don't have to worry because whatever you need to learn next is coming your way. Have you noticed that? You think, wow, I can't believe I just learned that. And the next thing is something else comes down the road and you go, wow, that I don't want to deal with that. Well, hello, you need to deal with it because that's your next lesson. And it'll keep coming at you until you learn it. That's how I noticed it. I have been incredibly slow on some lessons. I've had to retake that exam 2 or 3 times at least before I got it. I don't know if any of you relate to that. But that's what I know. It'll keep coming until I get the lesson and until I let go and change my thinking. And, such a nice, I wanted to tell you this one. When we were clearing out the shed, one neighbor that was helping me, he noticed that I had a baby hoe, at that time of the year. But a hoe that you use in the garden, and it's like this big, but it's really useful. But it had come apart from the handle, and it had a long handle so you could reach far with it. And he said to me, "Do you want this to work again?" And I said, "Yeah. Why do you think I still have that bit and the handle? If I didn't want it to work again, I would have thrown them away." And he said, "Leave that with me." And when I went home on Wednesday, guess what was on my deck? The hoe, and it works. I put it to the test. It works really well. And how about this one? Albert Schweitzer. He said this, a man or woman, a man does not have to be an angel to be a saint. Think about that. You don't have to be an angel to be a saint. And there's some of you that really need to hear that. It's okay to be who you are. It's okay to have whatever history you have. It is okay. Just do the right thing whenever you can. So look at life and be grateful for it. Look at all that is happening in the world and going, there's a big lesson for us all here. Why did the universe give us, a worldwide pandemic at this time? Why did we need to have that many people die? It's just like, sometimes it's a war, sometimes it's a pandemic, sometimes, But are you grateful? That would be my question. Are you grateful you're alive? Are you grateful that you have lived through part of history? This will go down in the history books, the great pandemic of 2020. And, you have been living it. And so I wonder whether you actually live knowing how lucky you are to have survived this far, also knowing in reality that a week from now we could have a totally different conversation. And then you have to ask yourself, if I found out, in a week that I had the pandemic, what would I be sad about that I hadn't done? And, that presumes that you're going to die, which is not true either, right? And some of us, even with pre-existing conditions, might survive it better than some other people. You see, it really is a very strange thing all around. But if you are convinced that if you got it, you die, then you probably are thinking that. And I'm actually changing my thinking, because I've said that to a lot of people. If I get this, I will die. Be with my history. And I'm going, I've got to stop saying that, because if I do get it, I don't want to die. I want to survive it. So now I'm going to find a different way of saying that, because I want to live, not die. Jodi's saying, I'm grateful for every day I'm given. It's my job to find joy in each day. Yes. And, it's funny, because every day when I make my daily bread, as I do, I make myself this little baby loaf of bread. It's about this big. I don't make more than that, because I would eat more than that. And I'm allowed to I take a couple of small slices, and the slices are about this big, a couple of small slices in the morning, and I'm allowed another couple in the evening as a treat. And that's my, and I learned how to make sourdough, because sourdough will have less effect on my blood sugar than regular. And it's just like, I wanted to eat bread, and I did what I needed to do so that I could. But the interesting thing is how many people love my bread, and they're going, who makes multi-grain sourdough that's tasty? And my neighbor is just floored that, that multi-grain sourdough could be that tasty. And I'm going, yep. And by the way, me, I don't have a recipe. I just huck things in that I feel like, and mine has chia seeds in it and flax seeds, and, I just chuck things in, and, a handful of rolled oats or whatever, and it just tastes so good. Why? It's got lots of good stuff in it. And so I get great joy out of doing that. I get more joy out of taking a loaf to my neighbor. Jodi's saying, that brings me joy. Great example. You baking bread and staying within your healthy guidelines is a source of joy for me. Seeing you content makes me happy. Yeah. I was not content this morning when I saw my belly. I don't know why. I accidentally, and I should never have done it, caught sight of myself sideways on and went, yikes. And then I realized, Jodi, part of the reason that my blood glucose has been going up is because I'm not getting the exercise that I was getting in my house. Why? This place is smaller. I'm not walking as much. Think about that. A smaller place means I walk less. In my house, if I wanted to go to the washroom, I never went to the guest bathroom. I always walked way to the back of the house to my ensuite bathroom. And then I'd go all the way back to the kitchen. It was interesting. The walk here to get to the bathroom is about 10 steps, not 30. And when you look at it and you go, wow, I knew there was a good reason why I needed to buy the place I did. I really value having that extra space because it helps me keep more active. But the exciting thing is, now that I've decided that I am staying here, I can now pick up, I now am the owner of a Wii game thing. And now I can pick it up and hook it up because I know I'm staying here. So will I use it? That is the question, right? Owning it. Sorry, my computer fell. Owning Oh, that definitely raised my blood pressure. But I caught it. Let me see what happened to my blood pressure then. Did it? Yeah, a little bit up. But you understand that owning it and using it are two different things. And so what I'd like you all to do is, what is it that you need to do to make your life better? What is it you need to do to make your life healthier? And I definitely have changed what I've been eating, because obviously what I was eating matched into how little I was moving inside this new environment was not working for me. Right? And the reason I know that is because my blood sugar started to rise. Now, I can't get my blood sugar to go down by wishing it or getting angry about it. I can only get it to go down by changing what I'm doing. And beating up on myself is not going to do it. What's going to do it is changing what I put in my mouth. Drinking a lot more water. And so what I now have is bottles of orange water with me everywhere. Why orange? Because I hate waste. And so I put the ends of my oranges in my water. And lemons. I cut the ends off, but instead of throwing them away, I actually cut them up and put them in my water. And I really challenge you all to live a lot this week. Make a point of anything that puts you away from being happy is controlling you. And you need to get control back and be happy. Does that make sense? If you are unhappy, it means something else is controlling you. How simple is that? Something external is controlling you if you're unhappy. And if you're happy, it means that you're living. And as I said to you time and time again, if you're lonely, do something about it. If you're sad, deal with it. Find out why you're sad. Do the internal work you need to work out why you're sad. Oh, well, I don't know. Well, do some work, find out why. And then move on. I ask myself that a lot during the day, right? If I'm feeling a bit down, I go, wait a minute, whoa, stop. Why am I feeling down? And then if I actually stop and think about it, some little thought is busy at the back of my brain. And I'm going, why am I thinking about that suddenly? And then it's amazing what answers I get. So challenge yourself to be happy this week. Challenge yourself not to get sucked into all the drama that's going to come down this week. Just keep being thankful for the fact that you live in a country that is democratic if you happen to be in the States. And by the way, for all of us who are not in the States and watching what is happening, I know that whatever happens in the States will affect the world. So of course we're interested in what's happened. And there's that part of me that goes, why are we all so interested in the States and nobody's really interested in us? Well, that's because the US is a vital part of all our lives. And what happens there will affect all of us. And I think that's okay. And it's good that we are concerned. And sometimes I really think that, we need to be more concerned. I wonder whether you were as interested in the politics that was going on, for example, in India or China or the UK or whatever, all right? And if we are, then we are aware of what's going on in the world. And that isn't always pretty, right? And it doesn't always match our values. But if you are a natural born learner and you are a curious person, then you will continue to learn. You will continue to learn more. You will continue. I can remember taking 1 month of my life where I tried to visit as many different religious buildings as I could. I had a friend of mine and asked them to, take me to shul. I had a friend of mine who and I said, explain to me about, what it looks like. I didn't go in, But you know, in the mosque, I wanted to know, and it was just like I spent a month just trying to find out, visiting different establishments that I could. But you know, it's amazing how much I learned just by getting interested. And so I challenge you: stay in the moment and be grateful for all that you learn. Life will bring you the lessons you need to learn, and when you know that, you don't have to worry about, am I in the right place doing the right thing? Because if you're not, you will be led to do the right thing. This is Dear Mama Sal, thanking you all so much for your time. Thank you for all your concern for one another. And particularly, because I'm very biased, thank you for all your concern and support for me over the last month. I know that the next few months will be just as uneasy for me and just as turbulent, and decisions that I don't want to make, well, will need to make, and all that stuff. But you know, the trick is, can I keep control of my mind and just put it into little categories and do a little bit every day until it's done? Jody, congratulations, by the way. I saw you say that you'd finish that document that you have to fill in every year. Well done. Sandy, well done on the sleep. And Sandy, I was thinking of you today, just before I go. I do want to say that when I was busy working with my sourdough, I wanted to know whether you want to know, I found something that works really well and is not any hard work with the sourdough. Would you like to know what I'm doing? Because if so, I will quickly show you. I was thinking I really should show this to Sandy. Hang on a second, honey. I just got to go and get it. I'll be right back. Okay. I'm going to make a big mess here. It's a pleasure. All right, so this is the sourdough that I mixed up this morning, Sandy. And as you can see, it's already pretty fluffy. But here's what I do. I keep a glass with a spatula in it, okay? And then every hour or so, just when I next go to the kitchen, I take the wet spatula and I just turn the dough onto itself. Can you see what I'm doing, Sandy? Now, it's doing two things. The one thing it's doing is it keeps hydrating the dough, right? Because obviously when I take the spatula out of the water, it's dripping water. So each time I do this, I am adding to the water content of the dough, which is a good thing. And then I'm not kneading it. I just turn it over onto itself like this. And I normally do it all four ways. You know, I turn it, turn this, turn it, turn it, turn it. When I've done four, I put it back and I put a saucepan lid over it. Mine has got glass here. So I just cover it. And then when I go to make the next meal or the next snack or whatever, I will see it and I will do it again. Just folding it onto itself. By tomorrow, this will be incredibly fluffy and beautifully hydrated. So I thought you might want to try it, Sandy, because I don't need it at all. Don't get my fingers all messed up or anything. It's all done with a wet spatula. And it came to me when I was doing some research about it, and they were saying that the difference between homemade bread and the really good artisan bread is the hydration, how much water it contains. And I'm going, I'll leave that in my brain. How do you get more water into it? And then I suddenly thought, you know, And then it also said every time you do it, wet your hands and do it. And I realized part of that is about getting more water into the dough itself. And I don't like getting sticky hands, and I don't enjoy kneading. So I went, how do I not do that? You know me, there has to be an answer. And it works. So again, if you don't use it, that's fine. But if you find it interesting, you may want to try it on one loaf. This is DearMamaSal going, it's an experiment. Okay, I thought, it's funny because as I was doing it today, I thought, I really must talk to Sandy about that. And I did. I'm happy now. This is DearMamaSal saying thank you so much for being here. Wish me luck for my cleanup day tomorrow. And I will see you all on Sunday. Bye-bye for now.